Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2, Cool Wake Magic gameplay. This time around we are playing as the forces of the Wood Elves against the Lizardmen on the map Karak Asgol. So this time around I did want to try a little bit of an alternative build to what I usually run. And rather than focusing on some heavy shooting with a Turtle Guard front line and some Asteroid Spears in the back, I decided to actually go and try to face the Lizardmen in a straight up melee brawl. And the composition here definitely kind of is built around that. For my lord, I decided to bring the mighty Durthu, and Durthu, of course, can't trade with Krokgar if he goes mounted on Grimlock and has all his kit, but normally, against anything else, he can trade really well. He doesn't do a lot of damage. He's still very tanky against most of the Lizardmen units, and he does have the crazy debuff with Sword of Death, and this really is going to sink in with his strategy, focusing on Wardancer use. So I do have Durthu here. He does have Sword of Death, the Lamentation of Despair, Foe Seeker, the Curse of Onrar, which is a nice little debuff to enemy speed and accuracy and melee attack. The Wiston's a Wild Form, just a cheap buff, and then of course a Wild Heart. Alongside him I do have Brandtraith, who is coming in with Earthblood, Melkot's Mystifying Miasma, as well as the Withering, which does provide a minus 30 armor debuff, which is very nice, combining with Durthu's Sword of Death. You get a minus 60 armor, and that can absolutely destroy Sarge Warriors. You only have 60 to begin with. He also does have the Call of the Woods, which affects everything around him, which means that these Eternal Guards, the Wardancers, and Durthu himself do have a crazy buff to their melee attack. The front line is composed of one unit of Eternal Guard just to provide some shielding against skirmisher fire and soak up javelins and just be a distraction. And they are backed up by 4 units of Wardancers. One of the interesting things I did find out is that Wardancers actually outtrade Saurus Warriors in a straight up fight, including shielded Saurus Warriors. They're actually really powerful in that sort of situation, despite the armor of the Saurus Warriors. And I figured that with all these debuffs, I can melt down any Saurus Warriors my opponent might bring and finish him off with kind of the rest of this force, if and as needed. Finish any monsters with the Azrai Spears and the Way Watchers and Durthu. So you can see they are backed by 3 units of Azrai Spears as well as 2 Way Watchers. And the Way Watchers definitely a little bit of a risky pick. I was thinking about bringing Wild Riders perhaps to shut down enemy skirmishers or something like that, but I just ended up deciding to settle for Way Watchers and to snipe down big dinosaurs if I need to. They are definitely a bit of a risk. Starfire Shafts definitely have a little bit more DPS if you need to deal with skirmishers, but I decided to go with Way Watchers. My opponent, he did decide to go with a pretty wide and pretty annoying Lizardmen build. He does have, for his lord, he does have Krokgar mounted on, I'm not entirely sure if it's a horned one or a cold one. It's actually, I think, a cold one. So fairly low stats, definitely no match for Durthu. If Durthu gets his balls on him, he's going to get annihilated, even with help from the Hand of the Gods. But he does have the Swiftness of Easel, he's got that mobility, good Deadly Onslaught, Sacred Spawning of Zodal, so very tanky, and if I try to kind of assassinate him on like this, he's going to be a pretty tough customer to take down. Alongside that, Krokgar does have a pretty squishy front line, a bunch of skin cohorts with javelins. These guys will not be able to go toe-to-toe with anything that would else put on the field. They are backed by a few Saurus Warriors. You can see 3 units of Saurus Warriors with shields, as well as a single Saurus Spear with shields. The main kind of one of the most annoying damaging forces here are the Chameleon Skinks. My opponent has 3 Chameleon Skinks as well as a single unit of Skink Skirmishers, and these guys are absolutely going to slaughter my Way Watchers and my Wardancers, so that's a huge problem for me. Wardancers are very susceptible to this sort of fire. Finally, my opponent does have a Bastillon on here with the Rev Crystal. Of course, that's going to be a nuisance as well. It does have, I do believe, 7 charges that it can cast, so very powerful heal. And then the Skink Priest of Heavens with Wind Blast, so definitely a very potent build, and definitely going to be a nuisance. Throwing things into full speed here, you can see we are gap closing pretty quickly. Neither side's really going to hold back too much, but my opponent is definitely going to try to get a little bit of skirmishing done here with the Chameleon Skinks. I'm simply pushing forward my Eternal Guard, looking to soak up all the Skink Cohort fire as best I can. Obviously, the Skink Cohorts will get some damage through. It's only a silver shield and not much armor, but better that the Eternal Guard takes the hit here than my Wardancers. You can see my Way Watchers start teeing off on the skirmishers. They actually stopped there, catching them by surprise. Definitely a big mistake here on my part, allowing them to fire like that. And you can see I do try to get a few volleys here into some of my opponent's troops. Actually, once again, another accidental fire there. But we are going to shift fire here and focus on the Chameleon Skinks, who are getting a little exceedingly close and picking away at my Wardancers. Definitely a little bit of a nuisance there, picking off a few models, but you can see the Way Watchers are now engaging on the Chameleon Skinks. And my opponent is not engaging me. The problem here is that the Way Watchers really cannot fight Chameleon Skinks, and with all the Cold One, my opponent actually has 2 Cold One Spear Riders. He has a lot of ability to pincer me and really collapse on my flanks. And I'll lay the smackdown not just by Way Watchers, but also my Wardancers with Azrai Spears and units like that. What I'm able to do, you can see a nice little Wind Blast here going down into Eternal Guard, but what I will be able to do, though, is my Wardancers with Azrai Spears, use that ability that drops, that improves their resistance to ranged fire and just pressure my opponent's troops off. And you can see I'm using the Waywatcher fire to just try to zone away these Chameleon Kings, beat them off. Definitely would be nice if I had the regiment of renowned Waywatchers, which we'll hopefully get soon, but we don't, so oh well. You can see we are pushing straight in. You can see a debuff going in. The Withering, of course, is going to hit, as will this Sword of Death. So my opponent's armor is right now at 0, and with the lackluster melee stats on the Star Warriors, they are going to get annihilated by the power of the Eternal Guard even, and as well as, of course, the Wardancers, who are just swarming these guys and destroying them in seconds. Where you can see Hand of the Gods does go down, but the Wardancers with Azar Spears are diving in to focus on Kroq-Gar, play the smackdown him, while the Waywatchers do kind of chip away at these Cold One Spear Riders and prove a nuisance. And of course, with Woven Mist, these guys are very resistant to the fire. They've got 64% missile resist on top, or damage resistance against those missiles, and they are going to be able to take these Cold One Riders to pound down. You can see they're definitely getting slaughtered. Unfortunately, this other unit is going to get on top of my Waywatchers. Meantime, you can see the Wardancers with Azar Spears here are just pursuing. They are able to make use of Woven Mist to just mitigate the damage pretty significantly. Over here in the pits, you can see Kroq-Gar getting beaten down, but he does use a lovely little Swiftness of Eitzel to get clear. While in the pits here, Durthu is slugging it out with these troops, and he is doing them absolutely laying a smackdown of the Bastillodon. You can see another Wind Blast going in on my Wardancers, doing some immense work, making them waver. And really, these Star Warriors who kind of stayed back when I was casting earlier are definitely kind of paid for themselves here, slugging out with the Wardancers. That said, the Wardancers with Azar Spears are stripping Kroq-Gar down pretty quickly, and I'm not quite on top of my Eternal Guard here, but you can see a little bit of Durthu's Lamentation of Despair there, hitting the Skinks and kind of beating them down before he promptly turns around to beat down the Bastillodon. Over here, the Wardancers holding their ground, sliding out with these Conquerors and Star Warriors. These guys will definitely kind of tank and hold. Backed by the Eternal Guard, they'll do even better. Over here, Kroq-Gar is kind of getting beaten down with cold-blooded pops. He's really slow and is struggling to escape, and he's in deep trouble. Over here, the Cold One Spear Riders are trying to slide out with Wardancers, but even with Woven Mist pop, Wardancers have such good stats. Cold One Riders really do not have good stats, and the Wardancers are going to slaughter these guys and drag them into the muck. And you can definitely see both of these Cold One Spear Riders not long for this world, despite the support from the Skinks. And the Skinks do apply poison with friendly fire here on the Cold One, so they're not as big of a help as my opponent would probably hope they would be. Over here, I do believe finally lose my one unit of. Actually, I pulled my unit of Wardancers with Azar Spears back to try to defend against these Cold Ones, but you can see one unit does break, and it's probably going to shatter. A unit here, not long for the world, routing off. Of course, my opponent is able to chip away at me with the Chameleon Skinks, but really things are not going great. These Cold One Spear Riders getting destroyed by the Wardancers with Azar Spears, who are pretty tanky against missile fire. And my opponent's block of infantry here, just tied down by a single unit of low HP Eternal Guard, and the Eternal Guard with their monsters melee defense are really just a champion unit there. In the pits here, Durthu has managed to kind of force a rout on all these troops who really don't stand a chance against him, and now we are breaching through, just trying to slaughter these Star Warriors' shields and push through to the back. Over here, the Wardancers with Azar Spears are pursuing Kroq-Gar, who is trying to do his best to get distance. Nice Wind Blast once again does go down, but really not gonna do too much. Most of the Wardancers, you can see, just get right back up with their spears and are going to dive in on Gary here, the Bastillodon, picking up some, unfortunately, or perhaps, I don't know if unfortunately, but I'm picking up some episodes from Turin, watching a little too much Turin, naming his Bastillodons, but or you can see the Bastillodon is being a little bit of a nuisance, so the Wardancers are going to take him to Pound Town and really beat him down. Over here in the meantime, you can see Durthu kind of striding in. He's still got over 5,000 HP, and he's basically indestructible to what my opponent's got left on the field. Yeah, my opponent is able to wipe out some Wardancers who are zoning away his Chameleon Skinks. Sure, these Star Warriors and Skinks are holding their own here. The Waywatchers, of course, not doing great. They do get a volley there in on the Skink Skirmisher, is going to do some damage. But my opponent is really in a bad spot here. You can see the Star Warriors are getting encircled. The Wardancers are diving in. They still have a decent model count, and as long as they have good model count, they can definitely lay the smackdown on these troops, and they're going to start dragging them down. Of course, with Durthu in there, they are just in for a terrible situation, and Durthu's probably going to be able to fear and terror out these guys. And you can see Sword of Death does go down, demoralizing and really these guys and really dropping their leadership and their armor and all that stuff. And you can see the Skinks rout immediately, and they're shortly followed by the Star Warriors, who really are not long for this world. Where the Waywatchers getting picked away at, definitely a bit of a problem. You can see over here the Branch Wraith slugging out with Kroq-Gar. Now the Branch Wraith isn't a great duelist against something like Kroq-Gar, but at the same time, because Kroq-Gar is knocking him around, Branch Wraith is not taking too much damage in return. See Kroq-Gar here definitely not having the greatest of times despite roughly 2,000 HP. The Branch Wraith isn't really able to hit him. He's not able to hit the Branch Wraith. They're kind of circling around each other, and my Waywatchers will be able to start teeing off on the Kroq-Gar. My opponent really, he does have his King Priest of Heavens here. I don't know why he's healing him. I think that's a bit of a waste, perhaps trying to get one more cast off, but I think it would have been better using on Kroq-Gar. But this caster isn't going to do very much. You can see the Bastillodon here getting run down by these angry Wardancers who are just pursuing him and trying to pester him and beat him down. You do finally come to grips with him again, and they're going to start chipping away and really stripping his HP off. Over here, Kroq-Gar getting wailed on by the Waywatchers, they're just melting him down. doing their very best. And of course, the Branch Wraith is not a... Krokar doesn't have the best melee defense. The Branch Wraith does have a decent chance of hitting him. Though obviously it probably wouldn't win in a straight-up fight. With all the support coming in, it's definitely going to be rough. Over here, my Wardancers are mopping up on the flanks, chasing down some skink cohorts, just trying to pressure them down. And while my opponent will be able to wipe out a few units here on the peripheries, these Wardancers who are pursuing the Stars Warriors, that sort of stuff, he really doesn't have the tools left to deal with my main force. And you can see Krokar here trying to save the Bastiladon, just unable to do so. You can see the Way Watchers working on the Skink Priest. But Krokar is in a bad spot, and when he tries to save the Bastiladon here, he is going to end up getting encircled and beaten down in turn by the angry Wardancer with Azrai Spear. So this is really not the spot he wants to be in with only 44 melee defense. These guys are going to strip him down very quickly. I do believe they have over 20 bonus against large, 23 in fact, so they are just going to destroy this guy. And Krokar really doesn't want to be there. You can see the Branch Wraith actually chasing down this Bastiladon, and it does go down to Way Watcher fire. Granted, my Way Watchers are now out of ammo, but my opponent's force, you can see the bar is very much in my favor. One unit of Way Watchers does tee off a few more shots in the Krokar. They're whittling him down. You can see the volleys at close range doing immense work. Way Watchers are so accurate for what they are. You can see just so much damage. And despite the fact that he's on a pretty small mount, and he does try to kind of get out of dodge, but it's really not good for him. So now for the last minute, we're basically repositioning. You can see I do push forward, but then decide to pull my infantry back, and I'm simply pushing Durthu forward. He is just advancing, he is marching forward, and just tanking shots. And you can see here, all this fire from the Skinks, he is popping Foe Seeker, but it's just doing so little damage. He's able to just advance Foe Seeker, Wiston's Wild Form going down, giving him more armor, of course, and he's just so tanky, and he's just not going down. He's just ignoring these guys, just to give it a dang. Well over 4,000 HP. He is going to cast a Lamentation of Despair there, doing some damage on these guys. And he's still just tanking. Durthu just doesn't care. These guys cannot damage him enough. I do get another cast of Sword of Daith here. I'm just going to start demoralizing these guys, causing them damage. And of course, these guys won't be, once they run out of ammo, they are going to be doomed against my main force of infantry here. And so Durthu is just kind of ending the game here on his own terms, pushing in and forcing the final rout, as there's nothing to contest him on the entire field. So definitely some mistakes on my part, and I think, and at the same time, definitely I think a bit of overcommitment into a single strategy for my opponent. My opponent definitely kind of, obviously monsters do not work that well against Wood Elves, so my opponent decided to commit into infantry, but I think his overcommitment to the skirmishers ended up burying him a little bit. They simply didn't have the tools to deal with Durthu. They were getting stuck trying to kill off Way Watchers and Wardancers that were constantly pressuring them. And while they obviously probably paid for themselves, or paid close to themselves, they just, my opponent's backline skirmishing force here just was not able to do enough to compensate for the fact that the front line collapsed so decisively. Granted, you can see the Stars Warriors did dish out some hurt. They obviously trade fairly well with the Wardancers, where they managed to get them outnumbered, or with the help of Chameleon Kings, of course, debuffing and hurting them earlier. But in the main fights, of course, the Wardancers overwhelmed them. The Wardancers getting over 100 kills on most of them. Eternal Guard tanked pretty well. Wardancers with Azrai Spears dealt with the cavalry and distracted my opponent's backline and shut down the Bastiladon with the Rev Crystal, shut down Krokar, all that stuff. And the Way Watchers did provide a bit of a critical supporting role, knocking out the Rev Crystal. Durthu himself and the Branch Wraith did provide some healing support and debuff support. Durthu, of course, did provide just an immense amount of work, so definitely I think the solid list. Perhaps dropping a unit of Wardancers in favor of an additional unit of Eternal Guard, or perhaps dropping the 2 units of Way Watchers here in favor of more Glade Guard, just to get a little more DPS, would be a good idea. For my opponent, I don't think it's a bad build. They're definitely very heavy on reliant on the skirmishers. This is about for well over 2,000 points worth of skirmishers, which for Lizardmen is quite a bit, especially when you stack it on top of the Skink cohorts, which aren't going to be doing that much either anyway. Against Wood Elves, the Skink cohorts are not very good, except for pressuring archers maybe. So I think that it was definitely a bit of a one-sided build, though definitely functional. Personally, I would recommend getting a few more Stars Warriors in there, try to maybe drop a few of these skirmishers in favor of those. If you do have to fight Durthu, Durthu is pretty slow, so even a unit of Temple Guard can be quite decisive, can be an okay choice. You just have to be careful, of course, to deal with enemy archery. Cold Spear Riders I'm not a personal fan of. I think that given that they're pretty slow, the Wood Elves do, of course, have Wardancers. They can, of course, bring Prayer of Anathrema, which is what I usually bring. I'm not a big fan of Cold Spear Riders against Wood Elves. I don't think it's really worth it. I don't even think they trade that well against Wild Riders, and that's saying something. Otherwise, though, great game to my opponent Thraxar here. It was a lot of fun. Definitely was a bit of a tight game. I didn't really have a proper answer to all the skirmish troops. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, criticism, any questions about the game or anything like that, be sure to share them down in the comments and I'll respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.